All right, we are going to focus on area and perimeter today of rectangles. So hopefully you know some basics about this. Area is always going to be the inside space. So it's like the inside covering. So such as, how much carpet it would take to cover this rectangle would be 66 feet squared or square feet. If we were going to tile the floor, if we're going to paint the wall, we would need to have 66 square feet worth of paint, right? Times two, because you usually do two coats. So being able to find the area helps us know how much flooring or wall cover we need. And then perimeter is adding up the outside, right? So it would be like fencing, or I always think about a security guard. Security guard is always just walking around the perimeter. He's keeping an eye around the outside of things. He can't cover every single square foot in between there, but he just walks around the perimeter and scans the perimeter. So those two things help me. And then I will get you a reference sheet sent out as well, but area of a rectangle is always length times width or base times height, just kind of whichever one you prefer. So obviously this would be the height, this would be the base, or you could call it length and width, right? Doesn't really matter because we're just multiplying, so the order doesn't really matter. So you just kind of choose. So in this case, it tells us what the area is. So if we're going to use, I'm just going to use base times height because that's one that I'm used to. It tells us the area, so we're going to replace the A with the 66, and then the base is 11, and then my height is what I don't know. So when I substitute into the formula correctly, it gives me a one-step equation. So all I have to do is divide by 11, and it gets me 6 as my height. Now, the other thing I could say is 11 times what gets me 66, right? And that way I don't even have to use the formula. Totally up to you. But either way, you have to come in here and type 6, and it says the label is required. So the height is 6 feet, right? The length and the width or the base and the height are always going to be the measurements. And then its area is going to be feet squared or square feet, right? And really what that's telling you is inside here, if we had 11 columns, right, and they're all equal, and then 6 this way, the tiles inside here, there would be 66 of these square tiles to fit inside. So that's really all area is showing you there. Okay. So I'm going to try to keep my descriptions over here on the left, and I'm just going to erase each one of these each time so that maybe we can hold on to our descriptions there. All right, let's look at the next question. And each question is going to be a little bit different. So this one here, it says the perimeter. So the perimeter is adding up around the outside, right? Is 48. Find the side lengths. So there's things that we need to know about rectangles. If the left is 9, the right is 9. If the top is Y, the bottom is also Y, right? So if I'm adding up the outside, that means I'm going to have 48 equals 9 plus 9 plus Y, essentially, right? Well, to get rid of that, I would combine 9 and 9, and it gets me 18, and then two Ys, right? So you could do it algebraically, or you could just rationalize it. To find my missing piece, I'm going to have to take 48 minus the 18, and that's going to get me 30. And then I have two Ys, right? Because these two are going to be equal to each other, which means I have to divide by 2. So that tells me 15 is what Y equals. Okay. So again, you could do it algebraically like I just did, or you could literally just come in here and say 48 minus 9 minus 9. And then I have two equal pieces, divide by 2. Same thing. This just puts it into an equation. Oh, and again, units are required. So let's make sure we put in there, it's going to be feet. There we are. Okay. This one here is a little bit of a weird way to see it if you've never seen it with the tiles before. So let's look at this example. Let me scroll up here. So it's wanting us to provide the answer of a reduced fraction or a mixed number. So if I look at this, my length here is 1 out of 3, right? Because one piece is shaded out of 3. So this answer right here is simply just going to be 1/3. Okay. The width is 1 out of 4 because it's one shaded out of 4 pieces. Okay, so here we're basically saying like, what is the area? Well, area is always base times height, which means we're doing 1/3 times 1/4. And if you know how to multiply fractions, you multiply straight across, that gets me 1/12, right? So you could do the math, but what I want you to see here is when you mix yellow and blue, you get green, right? You're mixing your primary colors. So that's how the visual works. It's one where they overlap out of 12 total, right? Because if you count these up, you're going to have 12. So you can either do the math or you can just look at the representation, but it was 1 out of 12 turned green. And then there's your answer to the question. Okay. So it's just a little bit different visual representation for people that are visual. Okay, let's look at another one. This one says, what is the area in square kilometers or kilometers, however you want to say it, of a rectangle? So I'm going to draw it. 8 kilometers and 4 kilometers. Well, if I know area, I'm just going to multiply the two together. And that gets me 32 kilometers squared, right? Because again, inside it's talking about if I put the 8 columns in here by the 4 rows, I would have 42 squares inside. So here you're going to have to put 42 AM. And then this button right here is the X squared. That's going to get you your squares. Nice units, but your number is incorrect. Oh, yeah, I typed it in wrong. 32. There we go. Okay. So just being careful that you know the area is always squared because we're talking about how many squares go inside. And the measurements are always just going to be the straight out measurements. Okay. Again, this one here, you're going to end up with 3/4 times 2/3. And you could just multiply it straight across if you want. 6/12, so that actually comes out to be 1/2. Or you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of the total 12, right? And it tells you provide the answer as a reduced fraction or mixed number. So it needs to go to the 1/2 piece. Okay, so just knowing that. And let's see, this one here again wants perimeter. So we need to remember perimeter is adding up the outside. Perimeter of the rectangle is 86 inches equals, well, 21 and 21 is 42. I just like to combine them so I don't have to deal with that. Plus 2 x's. And then to solve it, I would just take away the two 21s, right? So 86 minus 42 leaves me 44. And then I have x plus x means I'm going to divide them in 2, right? So that means each one of those is going to be 22 because 44 divided by 2 is 22. And it needs to be inches. Okay. Let's see. This one, lots of people don't like these kind of problems. So I'm glad we came across one of these. It says a rectangular carpet is 4 times as long as it is wide. Well, that means it's 4 times the width, right? The length is 4 times the width, 4 times long as it is wide. And the width is 3 yards. Well, this is my width, right? So I can substitute that in here and it really becomes 4 times 3, which gets us 12. So to find the perimeter, because that's what it wants, the perimeter, I need to know that this becomes 12. And that is again, because it's 4 times the width, 4 times W, and the width is 3. And then to find the perimeter, I've got to add them all up. So 12 and 12 is 24. 3 and 3 is 9. And I'm just going to add those together and get 33. Let's see. And it doesn't give me, oh, yards. So it's 33 yards all the way around. Nice units, but your number is incorrect. All right. 12 and 12 and 3 and 3. Oh, yeah, that would have been 6. Duh. My bad. So 30 yards. There we go. So yeah, don't do 3 times 3 like I did. 3 plus 3. Okay. And again, finding our errors is how we move on as well. So again, if that confuses you, let's look at it one more time, change my color. It tells me it's 4 times long as it is wide. So it's 4 times the width. And my width is 3. So 4 times 3 is how we got 12. Okay. But if you have any questions, let me know. Other than that, 10 points, get more math.